I've warned everybody ahead of time, if you're going to remake something like The Crow, if you're going to remake a cult classic, I'm going to judge it as such. When you want to play with the big boys, you gotta be willing to accept the same level of criticism. With that being said, before we even get started, I will tell you now, this could have been, as a standalone film, an easy probably 7 out of 10 for me, maybe an 8 out of 10. But because they chose not to just reboot the Crow universe, or to maybe take another comic book, or something to that effect, and made it its original piece, but instead they decide to do an actual remake with the same characters, they back themselves into a corner, and that's why it's getting a 0. You see what I'm saying? It could have stood by itself. And from my perspective, the fact that they chose to call it a quote-unquote remake, but give it almost a completely different storyline, to me feels like they just wanted the licensing. They just wanted that name. That they didn't take the fans into consideration. They didn't take the original story into consideration. They didn't take any of that into consideration. Or at least that's my feelings on it. So yes, as a Crow remake, 0 out of 10. But had it been like a standalone reboot, say they wanted to call it The Crow Uprising, The Crow Reborn, Resurgence, fuck, they could have called it The Crow Weird Nipple Eye Tattoo, it would have been fine with different character names. But they didn't. And that's their own fault. So welcome back, and once again, thank you for trusting me with your full spoiler movie reviews. That thing I do where I watch movies and then I tell you all about them. As always, I am unpaid and unsponsored. And spoilers, all the spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, you can go ahead and scroll. I won't be offended. Spoilers, okay, here we go. Also, if you haven't seen the original 1994 Crow, spoilers to that too. But 100% recommend that one. Recommend. So let's start off with the original storyline of the 1994 Crow. Eric Draven is a musician who's madly in love with a woman named Shelley, and they are engaged to be married. It is Hell Night, which is the night before Halloween and the night before their wedding. Some goons break into their apartment and kill them. 1 year later, Eric arises from the dead with the power of the Crow to avenge their deaths. He has to fight this cool guy with a ponytail, and he does some vigilante shit on the way. But it's more than just the story that makes this. It's the entire aesthetic as a whole. This is a goth alt staple. Now let's get on to 2024. Shelley was a musician with a drug problem who was influenced by this guy who looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman that had some sort of Satan powers that influenced her to kill this girl, and then she went on the run. She was caught by the cops with some cocaine and was sentenced to a rehab center. Well, Eric was also in the rehab center, but they broke out. Then they were living in her rich friend's apartment for a while, and they were just like hanging out and doing shit for the next 45 minutes until the Philip Seymour Hoffman goons tracked them down and killed him with a plastic bag. Well, she's like dead, but he is not. He went to this like realm at a train track, but with the power of pure love, he can avenge her death. And he kind of sort of tries that, but he's not very good at it. But then he gets killed again and comes back, and they're like, you fucking wasted it. And he's like, well, I'll trade my life for hers. And so they make a blood deal. And so now he's got John Wick-ass powers. And I do mean some John Wick shit. Like, you could have planted this as, like, the next John Wick movie, even with all the supernatural shit. And I would have ate that up. But he's killing goons, and then he kills the final boss guy, which was a little anticlimactic. But he brings her back from the dead, but he has to be dead in her place. And that's it. That's the whole movie. The end. And I've already explained I could have liked it had it not been a remake. However, Bill Skarsgård did a fucking smashing job. And to tell you the truth, and I've been sitting here and thinking about this, had this just been a reboot and not a remake, I don't think Brandon Lee would have hated it. And I could be very wrong about that, but something in my heart tells me I think he would have thought this was kind of neat. You know, to see where it goes, see where it evolves. So I take that into consideration as had that been a standalone film, why that got an 8 out of 10. But that's it. That's all I have to say. I think this is going to end up fading into obscurity. Yeah, 0 out of 10. Okay, bye.